Hello everyone! Leave a comment below to let me know where you're watching from. Today I'm going to tell you a story that completely changed my life and that still moves me to this day. My name is Nancy Coleman, I'm 29 years old, and 5 years ago I was being humiliated by my own family for working as a nanny. They called me a failure, worthless, and said I would never amount to anything in life. Well, you won't believe what happened at the last family reunion when I told them that I now own a chain of 12 private schools spread across 3 states. The look on their faces was, well, you'll find out at the end of this video. To help you understand this whole story, I need to go back in time a little. I was born and raised in Columbus, Ohio, in a middle-class family. My father, Peter Coleman, was always obsessed with financial success and social status. He worked as a sales manager for an industrial equipment company and was always bragging about the awards he won. My mother, Sarah, was an accountant at a law firm and had this habit of comparing her children to other people's children all the time. I have 2 siblings, Steve, who is 3 years older than me, and Sophie, who is 2 years younger. Steve has always been the darling of the family. He was good at math since he was little, then he graduated in engineering and now works for a technology company earning over $100,000 a year. Sophie also followed the path my parents wanted. She graduated in business administration and works in the finance department of a bank. And me? Well, I was always different. Ever since I was a child, I loved taking care of children. When my younger cousins came over, I would play with them, make up stories, and teach them basic things like how to tie their shoes or write their name. My parents always saw this as a waste of time. The moment that changed everything happened when I was 24. I had just graduated from a state university with a degree in education, not one of the expensive schools my parents wanted, but one that I was able to pay for by working part-time at a clothing store throughout my undergraduate studies. It was Easter Sunday 2020. We were all gathered at my parents' house for the traditional lunch. Steve had just told me that he had received a promotion and that he was now making $120,000 a year. Sophie had been promoted to supervisor at the bank. And me? Well, I had started working as a nanny for some families in the area. That's when my dad asked, "Nancy, what about you? What's new to tell?" I took a deep breath and said, "Well, Dad, I started working as a nanny and it's going great. I have 5 regular families and I'm making a very good income taking care of the children." The silence that followed was awkward. My dad put his fork down on his plate with a sharp thud and looked at me with a look of contempt that I will never forget. "Nanny, Nancy? Did you go to college to work as a nanny? That's a joke, right?" "No, Dad. It's not a joke. I love working with children and I'm making a good living. Some families pay me $25 an hour and I work 40 hours a week." My mother shook her head in disapproval. "Nancy, this is humiliating. What are we going to tell our friends? That our daughter is a nanny? You wasted 4 years of college to be a maid." Steve laughed sarcastically. "Seriously, Nancy? While I'm building a real career, you're playing with dolls with other people's kids?" Sophie, trying to be more diplomatic but no less fierce, added, "Nancy, you need to think about your future. Nannying is not a profession. It's a temporary job for teenagers." But the worst part came when my father got up from the table and said, "Nancy, you are a disappointment to this family. We invested in your education hoping that you would do something useful with your life, not become useless taking care of other people's kids. How much longer are you going to keep playing house?" I felt tears start to burn my eyes, but I took a deep breath and replied, "Dad, I'm not kidding. I am working honestly and earning my own money. And most importantly, I am happy doing what I love. Happy doesn't pay the bills, Nancy. Happy doesn't build a future. You are 24 years old and doing the work of a teenager. When are you going to grow up? It was at that moment that something inside me changed. I stood up from the table, looked at each of them and said, "You will regret ever doubting me. One day you will see that you were wrong." I grabbed my purse and left my parents' house. I drove home crying, but with a determination I had never felt before. That night I made a decision that would change my life forever. In the days following Easter lunch, I couldn't stop thinking about what my parents had said. They were wrong about me, I knew it, but how could I prove it? That's when I started to take a closer look at the work I was doing. I was caring for 5 families. The first was the Thompsons. He was a doctor, she was a lawyer, and they had 2 children, Emma, age 6, and Lucas, age 4. The second family was the Morrisons. They both worked in marketing and had 3-year-old triplets. The third was the DeVises. He was an engineer, she was a nurse, with a 5-year-old daughter and an 8-month-old baby. The fourth family was the Rodriguezes. They owned a small landscaping business, with 2 sons, ages 7 and 9. And the last was the Johnsons, college professors with a 6-year-old daughter. As I cared for these children, I began to notice patterns. All of these families had one thing in common: they were desperate to find quality care for their children. It wasn't just about having someone to watch the kids while they worked. They wanted someone who genuinely cared about their children's development. Mrs. Thompson once told me, "Nancy, you're amazing. Emma learned more from you in 2 months than she did in a year of preschool. You have a natural gift for teaching." That's when the first idea began to form in my mind. What if I could create something that combined childcare with quality education? I began researching the childcare market in our area. I discovered something astonishing: the demand for quality childcare was growing 15% per year in Ohio. Many families were dissatisfied with the options available. Daycare centers were too large and impersonal, and individual nannies were not always reliable or qualified. I spent the next 3 months doing in-depth research. I spoke to over 50 families in the area about their needs. I researched laws, licensing, insurance, everything that was required to start a childcare business. During this time, my family continued to treat me like I was a failure. My father stopped asking me about work. My mother changed the subject whenever anyone asked about me. Steve and Sophie joked about my profession whenever we saw each other. But I had an unexpected ally: my paternal grandmother, Dolores Coleman. She was 78 years old and had always been a businesswoman. In the 1970s, she had built a small catering company that at one point catered events for over 500 people. One day, I was at Grandma Dolores' house helping her with some things, and she noticed that I was different. "Nancy, what's going on? You seem worried, but at the same time, determined." I told her the whole situation with my parents and the idea I was developing. "Grandma, I want to open my own childcare business. But not just any daycare. I want to create something different, one that combines care with personalized education. Small groups of children, individual attention, structured educational programs." She looked at me with a smile I hadn't seen in years. "Nancy, do you know why I've always been successful in business? Because I found a real need in the market and created a solution that was better than anyone else was offering." It sounds like you're on the right track. My grandmother has been an invaluable help to me. She loaned me $15,000 to get started, and more importantly, she taught me everything about running a business. She showed me how to write a business plan, how to calculate costs, how to deal with taxes, how to create organizational systems. In September 2020, I opened my first Little Scholars Academy in a rented house in my neighborhood. It was small, it could only accommodate 12 children according to state regulations. But I was determined to make it work. My approach was unlike anything else in the area. I offered small group childcare with a focus on personalized education. Each child had an individual development plan. I used adapted Montessori methods, included art, music, and basic language skills, and prepared nutritious meals. I charged $200 per child per week, more expensive than traditional daycare, but much cheaper than a private nanny with the same qualifications. The first few months were tough. I worked from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Friday. I cared for the children during the day, cleaned and prepared after they left, and spent the evenings planning activities and studying about child development. My family continued to ignore me. At Christmas 2020, when asked about my job, I told them I had started my own childcare business. My dad rolled his eyes and said, "Nancy, having half a dozen kids in your house is not a business, it's just an expensive babysitter." But things started to change quickly. By February 2021, I had a waiting list. Parents were amazed at how well the children were developing. Some were reading at age 4, others were speaking basic Spanish words, and all were demonstrating highly developed social skills. Mrs. Thompson referred me to 3 of her friends. Mr. Rodriguez referred me to other entrepreneurs in the area. Within 6 months, I couldn't keep up with all the demand. That's when I had my second big idea: what if I could expand the model? I started researching franchising and business expansion. I discovered that the premium childcare market was exploding in the United States. Upper-middle-class families were willing to pay more for personalized, quality services. In June 2021, I opened my second Little Scholars Academy in a neighboring city. This time, I hired 2 employees, a preschool assistant and an administrative assistant. The process was easier than I expected. I already had the entire system in place: curriculum, procedures, training, materials. All I had to do was replicate it. By December 2021, I had 3 locations up and running and a waiting list of over 100 families. My monthly revenue had gone from $9,600, first location, to $28,800, 3 locations. But the amazing thing is that I was able to maintain quality. Each location served a maximum of 12 children, with 2 educators per location. The parents were happy, the children were thriving, and I was finally starting to earn enough money to truly become financially independent. Around this time, my grandmother Dolores gave me another valuable piece of advice: "Nancy, you've created something special. But if you want to really grow, you have to think bigger. Don't just think Ohio. Think about expanding to other states." That's when I met Marcus Webb, a business consultant who specializes in expanding service businesses. He looked at my business model and was impressed. "Nancy, you've created a money-making machine. Your model is scalable, replicable, and meets a real market demand. With the right plan, you can have 50 locations up and running in 3 years." Marcus helped me structure an aggressive expansion plan. He taught me about franchising, investor acquisition, process standardization, and remote management. In 2022, I opened 4 more locations, 2 in Ohio and 2 in Indiana. Each new location generated approximately $9,600 per month in net revenue. I was making over $67,000 per month from the 7 locations alone. But I hadn't told my family yet. Whenever they asked about my work on the rare occasions we saw each other, I simply told them I was still working in childcare. They assumed I was still a glorified nanny. In 2023, things took off in incredible ways. I secured investors to help me expand even faster. An investment group specializing in education companies offered me $500,000 to open 10 new locations in Kentucky, Indiana, and Michigan. By the end of 2023, I had 12 Little Scholars Academy locations up and running. My annual gross revenue had reached $1.3 million. After all costs, taxes, and investments, I was making about $400,000 net per year. But the most rewarding part wasn't the money. It was seeing the hundreds of children who were getting a quality education, the parents who could work peacefully knowing their children were being taken care of, and the 36 people I had hired who had stable, well-paying jobs. I had created something that was truly making a difference in people's lives. And it all started because I loved taking care of children, the very thing my family thought was useless. All the while, I kept my personal life private. I bought a beautiful house in an upscale neighborhood in Columbus, but I didn't show it off. I drove a nice car, but not flashy. I was still the simple Nancy I'd always been, only now with a solid company and a secure future. In March 2024, my mother called me to invite me to my father's 60th birthday. It was the first time in almost 2 years that she had invited me to a family event. "Nancy, it's going to be just the family. Your father is going through a difficult time at work and I think it would be good to have all the children together." I accepted the invitation, but I decided it was time to tell the truth about my life. The party was at my parents' house on Saturday afternoon. My parents were there, Steve with his wife and 2 young children, Sophie with her boyfriend, some uncles and cousins, and my grandmother Dolores. During lunch, as always, the conversation turned to work and professional achievements. Steve told me he had been promoted again and was now making $150,000 a year. Sophie said she was being considered for a promotion at the bank that could double her salary. When it was my turn, my dad asked, somewhat disinterestedly, "What about you, Nancy? Are you still babysitting?" The way he said it, in that condescending tone, was the last straw. I took a deep breath and decided it was time. "Actually, Dad, yes. I am still babysitting. But you might be interested in knowing exactly how my work with children is going." I pulled out my phone and showed everyone the Little Scholars Academy website. I am the owner and CEO of Little Scholars Academy, a chain of schools specializing in premium early childhood education. We currently have 12 locations in Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, and Michigan. The silence that followed was even deeper than the one 4 years ago. But this time, it was a silence of shock, not contempt. Steve was the first to speak. "Nancy, you're kidding, right?" "No, Steve. I'm not kidding. Our annual revenue is close to $1.5 million. We employ 38 people. We serve over 400 families. And it all started because I loved doing the very thing you thought was useless." I showed them the pictures of the facilities, the articles that had appeared in the local paper about my business, the awards we had won for excellence in early childhood education. My mother's face was pale. "Nancy, is this real? Do you really own all this?" "Yes, Mom. And you know what's most interesting? My annual net income is now more than Steve and Sophie's combined. That useless nanny you criticized so much built an empire from scratch." My father was visibly shaken. "Nancy, I didn't know. Why didn't you ever tell us?" "Because you were never really interested in my work, Dad. Whenever I tried to explain what I was doing, you changed the subject or made jokes. You decided I was a failure before you even gave me a chance to prove myself wrong." Sophie was looking at the photos on my phone with her mouth open. "Nancy, this is amazing. You built all this on your own?" "Not entirely on your own. Grandma Dolores lent me the seed money and taught me all about business. She was the only person in my family who believed in me when I needed it most." My grandmother, who had been sitting silently until then, smiled and said, "I always knew Nancy had the potential for great things. You were just too blind to see it." My father got up from the table and walked to the window. He was silent for a few minutes, then turned to me. "Nancy, I need to apologize. We were cruel to you. We judged your work without understanding, and more importantly, we judged you without giving you the benefit of the doubt." Tears began to form in his eyes. You reminded me of something I had forgotten. When I started my career, my own father doubted me. He wanted me to be a doctor, like him, and when I chose sales, he said I would be a failure. I swore I would never do that to my children, but I ended up doing exactly the same thing. My mother was also emotional. Nancy, we are so proud of you. And so ashamed of ourselves. Steve approached me. Sister, I owe you a huge apology. You are incredible. Building a company from scratch at 24 is something I would never have the courage to do. Sophie hugged me. Nancy, you are my inspiration. I had always admired her courage, but I had never had the maturity to express it. It was a very emotional moment, but also a liberating one. For 4 years, I had carried the hurt of not having the support of my family. Now, finally, they understood that I was not a failure. I was a successful entrepreneur who had found a way to turn my passion into a thriving business. My father asked me, Nancy, can you forgive us? I know we have caused a lot of pain, and I understand if you don't want to give us a second chance. Dad, I love you. Of course I can forgive. But I need you to understand one thing, I will never again accept being disrespected or underestimated. I have built something incredible, and I deserve your recognition and respect. He nodded. You are right. And you have our full respect. In fact, if you don't mind, I would like to visit one of your schools. I want to see firsthand what my daughter has created. In the months that followed, my relationship with my family was completely transformed. My parents started asking me for business advice. Steve referred me to some of his contacts who were looking for quality childcare. Sophie even helped me review some financial contracts. Most importantly, they began to understand that success isn't just defined by a salary from a big company. Success is about building something from scratch, employing people, serving a community, and doing work you love. Today, in 2025, my company continues to grow. We are planning to open 8 more locations by the end of the year. I have received a proposal from an investment group to expand nationally, which could transform Little Scholars Academy into a brand recognized throughout the country. But the most rewarding thing is not the financial success. It is knowing that hundreds of children are receiving a quality education because I had the courage to follow my passion. It is seeing parents who can work peacefully knowing that their children are well taken care of. It is offering decent and well-paid jobs to dozens of educators. And it is proving that sometimes the people who doubt you, even your own family, are completely wrong. If you are watching this video and have a passion that others consider less important or less profitable, I want you to know, do not give up. Find a way to transform this passion into something that adds value to the world. You may end up surprising everyone, including yourself. Let us know in the comments, have you ever been in a similar situation? Have you ever been underestimated by family or friends? How did you deal with this? I would love to hear your stories. And if this video inspired you in any way, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Next week I will share what it was like to hire and train employees to maintain quality across all locations, one of the most challenging parts of growing a service business. Thanks for watching, and remember, never let anyone diminish your dreams. Sometimes, what others consider your weakness can be the very key to your greatest success. Cheers, and see you next time.